We're going to be starting out our lessons with SAT, what I call strategy sessions, because that way we can kind of get you some experience on answering these types of questions with keywords and ideas and tricks and things that exist. Keep in mind that whenever you have a multiple choice question, which is what a lot of the SAT is, not all of it, but a lot of it is, that there are strategies to help you kind of figure out what's going on in the words and in the actual answers themselves. So on this question that we're talking about today, it says on a Saturday afternoon, oh, by the way, keep in mind these questions are going to become part of your quizzes, so you want to make sure that you pay attention to the strategies used, because otherwise what will happen is when you see them on the quiz, you will not get them right because you don't understand what's going on. So it says on Saturday afternoon, Armand sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. It asks which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon. Now there are some keywords in here. I remember the word each, and we have actually each hour, and what each usually told us was that something got multiplied, and we have M text messages each hour for 5 hours. That right there tells me that these two are probably going to be connected by multiplication, because that's what each usually means. I have another each right here where it says Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. So what that tells me is that 4 and P should be attached. But that's just something I can kind of get from there. The biggest hint for me is that they are talking about the total number of messages. And whenever we think about total, whenever we see the word total, it typically means that we are going to add some things up to get there. And because of that, and because of this being a multiple choice question, I can almost guarantee it's not going to be A. Because there is no addition in A, there's also no addition in B. And once you eliminate those two, now it comes down to two questions that give us a very good idea on what the answer should be. And again, if you go back to the fact that it was M text messages each hour for 5 hours, it means that we should see a 5M, also a 4P. Notice that this has 4M, which means it can't be that, and your answer will be C. Be sure to use, whenever you do multiple choice questions, be sure to use the fact that it's multiple choice to find your way to the answer, and that will more than likely help you to answer some things that you really probably would not get right in other times. I know that when I took the ACT myself, I didn't know all the answers, but I knew enough to say, I know it's not this one, I know it's not that one, and in the end, you get a pretty good idea on what the answer might be just out of common sense. But today what we're going to do is work on factoring. We're going to introduce the idea. We have a week of doing that, not really a week, but today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Today what we're going to do is begin the process of factoring. In order for you to completely grasp the idea, you need to look at it as if you are solving a puzzle. Once you understand what to look for, the solution is going to be easy to find, but we're going to learn about each of these keys over the next few days. You must be sure to work hard to understand them, because if any of this information passes you by today or tomorrow specifically, then it could cause you a lot of confusion later. Keep in mind, I've been doing this for 15 years. I have seen where the hard parts are, and in factoring, it's these 2 days that we're talking about here. This lesson here is going to introduce us to the method of finding basic combinations. Again, it's like a puzzle, so that's pretty much what we're doing. In order to do these, it's important that you understand how to make factor trees. If you remember, we did factor trees. That's where you take the number, you start with 1, you say 1 times what, 2 times what, and go from there. In order to do these combinations, again, let's begin by looking at the general format of a combination. This is the combination that we will see, and that is the puzzle that we are going to try to crack. What this says is that, and you might want to write it down in your notes, this means we're looking for numbers that multiply to be 30 and add to be 11. That's pretty much a shorthand. Again, this means that it multiplies, that's what the dot means, multiplies to be 30 and adds to be 11. Again, that is what that means. We're not going to solve it right now, but you have to understand what it's asking for. Again, if this is a puzzle, this puzzle is asking me to find two numbers that multiply to be 30 and add to be 11. This puzzle over here is asking me for two numbers that multiply to be 45 and add to be negative 18. And again, this is just another puzzle that the problem wants us to solve. So again, if you view factoring as a puzzle, if you view it as something that needs to be solved, you don't go at it like it's algebra where we're trying to solve for x. It's not the same type of problem, but if you adjust your mentality and you adjust your approach, then it actually isn't so bad. You just have to be in the mode to actually solve puzzles, and in order to do that, you just have to be ready to solve a puzzle. In order to solve these combinations, we must first create a factor tree for the product that is being multiplied. After creating the tree, we're going to place the proper signs on the numbers and then check to see which one works. By the end of the day, you must be able to do two things. You must be able to create the factor tree, which some of us have the ability to do, but some of us still are not there yet, so make sure you take care of that now, and you have to be able to place the signs on them. Now, some of you are going to mess up on choosing the numbers in the beginning, but the main thing for today is that you know how to create the factor tree and place the signs, because over the next few days you're going to get some more practice and you'll eventually learn how to choose those numbers. But again, the first two steps are mandatory, and because this is another one of those things where it's best learned through experience, let's get some practice. I gave you some very, very tough questions that you probably will not face on today's work, but I did that so you could actually see what the worst case scenario is. And it's going to take some time, but like I said, just keep in mind, follow along with me, follow the strategy, and it's just a very direct linear concept, so as long as you follow it, it should be okay. Here we are looking for numbers that multiply to be 115 and add to be 28, and so what we do is we make a factor tree for 115. Of course, we know that 1 times 115 is first, and so now here's what we do. We check 115 divided by 2, which gives me a decimal, and it means that 115 does not divide by 2, so we don't use it. Then we try 115 divided by 3. It again gives me a decimal, which means it doesn't work. 115 divided by 4. And you can start using your common sense. Anytime you have an odd number, it's not going to be divisible by an even number. So even though I will do it, I can just tell you right now that because this is odd, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, any even numbers won't work, and you can use that to your advantage. 115 divided by 5 gives us 23. 115 divided by 6, as I said, will not work because it's even. 115 divided by 7. 115 divided by 8 should not work because it's even. 115 divided by 9. 115 divided by 10. 115 divided by 11. And here is where I am working it out for you so you know when you can stop. When the answer that you get, if you notice, I divided by 9, I got an answer of 12 point something. I divided by 10, I got an answer of 11 point something. I divided by 11, I got a smaller number. If you keep in mind the number that we are starting with is on this side, that represents the smaller side. And so the moment you divide and you get a number that is smaller than the answer that you plugged in, that means that that's all you've got. So this is your tree. Now, because it adds to make a positive 28, and because we know it multiplies to make 115, it means that all my numbers should be positive. So we have a positive 1 and a positive 115, positive 5, positive 23. Of course, these two do not add to make 28, so my numbers are positive 5 and positive 23, which I can check right here to see that they actually do make 28, and that if I multiply 5 times 23, that I get 115. That is the puzzle that we are trying to solve. So as long as you, again, take your time and keep in mind all the little things I'm going to try to help you out with, it'll work out to your advantage. Just, again, take your time and make sure you understand what's going on. For question B, we want numbers that multiply to be 152 and add to be negative 76. So the first thing we do is recognize that it multiplies to be 152, and so we make a factor tree for 152. And again, we go 152, we don't need 152 divided by 1. We know it's 1 times 152. 152 divided by 2, because it's even, more than likely will work, so 2 and 76. 152 divided by 3, no. 152 divided by 4, yes. 152 divided by 5, no. 152 divided by 6, no. 152 divided by 7, no. 152 divided by 8, yes. 8 and 19. I think I messed up on this, but we'll talk about that in a second. 152 divided by 9, no. 152 divided by 10, nope. 152 divided by 11, nope. 152 divided by 12, no. And again, looking here, if me dividing by 12 gave me 12 point something, it's more than likely dividing by 13 is going to tell me I can stop. this is my numbers here. I'm just going to tell you that we need to turn this into a negative 78 because that's really what we're looking for. And so as we completed our tree, again, once we got up to 152 divided by 13 and we got 11 as an answer, it means that we are done. This is all that we have. And again, here's what we have to know. The fact that it multiplies to be a positive 152 means the signs are the same. And so it means that if we add to make a negative 78, just like the last one was all positives, it means all these numbers are negatives, because negative times a negative makes a positive, but a negative plus a negative makes a negative. That is key for you to understand here. Now, what happens is we're looking for the ones that add to be negative 78. Of course, that's not it. I think that one is negative 2 and negative 76. Again, change that because I messed up in your notes. I do that sometimes. I think I do it to keep you sharp and make sure you're paying attention, but you know, I did mess up just a little bit. Anyway, that is what happens. So you have two problems here, and these are the two questions you're going to see today that you need to focus on. You have the ones that multiply to be a positive, add to be a positive, so your answers were a positive and a positive. You'll have the ones that multiply to be a positive, add to be a negative, so you know it's going to be negative and negative. These are your two main goals of understanding for the day. So as we continue this, you're going to see those questions over and over. This one multiplies to be 136 and adds to be negative 25. So again, we start with the tree for 136, which we already know is 1 times 136. After that, we simply do 136 divided by 2, which is 2 times 68. 136 divided by 3, which is nothing. 136 divided by 4, which is 34. 136 divided by 5, which shouldn't happen because if it's divisible by 5, it should end in a 0 or a 5. 136 divided by 7, oops. I guess it doesn't work like that. 136 divided by 7, nope. 136 divided by 8 makes 8 and 17. 136 divided by 9, no. 136 divided by 10, I don't think so. It should end in a 0. 136 divided by 11. And again, notice you have an answer of 12, which means more than likely dividing by 12 is going to give me an answer that's smaller, which tells me we can stop here. Now keep in mind, once we made this tree, it means that these are the numbers that multiply to be a positive 136, but it adds to be a negative 25, which means that my numbers have to all be negative, because that's the only way you can multiply or add to be a negative, and unless the signs are the same, it's not going to multiply to be a positive. Looking for the ones that add to make a negative 25, we're pretty much just looking for the numbers that make 25. That's too much. That's too much. That's 38. No. But 8 and 17 do make 25, which means your numbers are negative 8 and negative 17. Again, this is the job we're doing today. Make sure you're preparing for it. It's not as bad as it seems, especially once you get into it. Just make sure you are working hard today and asking questions. D wants numbers that multiply to be 144 and add to be 30. So again, I go with 144, which is 1 times 144. I'm pretty sure 2 goes in because it's even. So 144 divided by 2 gives me 72. 144 divided by 3 gives me 48. 144 divided by 4 is just a lot of calculator typing. 4 times 36, which is a game of patience. That's why I said view it as a puzzle. 144 divided by 5, no. 144 divided by 6, yep, 6 times 24. 144 divided by 7, nope. 144 divided by 8, yep, 8 and 18. 144 divided by 9, oop, 9 and 16. 144 divided by 10, I don't think so. 144 divided by 11, I don't think so. 144 divided by 12 is 12. And here again is another nice moment for us, because if the answer that we got is the same as the answer that we typed in, it means that this is another stopping point. There is no way that the 13 is going to give us a bigger number. So 144 divided by 13, if you notice, gives me a smaller number. I could have stopped at 12. Since it adds to make a positive 30, it means that everything is positive the way it is. And looking for the ones that add to be 30, no, that's 51, that's 40. Those two make 30, 6 and 24. So that's where we're going with this. E, multiplies to make 126, add to make 25. Again, start with 126, which is 1 and 126. The reason we do that is because sometimes I see people who work for a long period of time, and the answer is 1 times whatever it is, we want to list that. 126 divided by 2 should go because it's even, so it's 2 and 63. 126 divided by 3, yep, 3 and 42. 126 divided by 4 divided by 5, which should not happen because it should end in a 5 or a 0. So 126 divided by 6 gives me a 21, which makes me think I messed up again, but we'll see. 126 divided by 7 is 18. Divided by 8 divided by 9, which is 14. 10 shouldn't go because it should end in a 0 if it's multiplied by 10. Notice how the numbers are getting close. I think this should be our last check, and you notice again we get about the same amount, which means that I think we can stop there. The fact that it makes a positive 25 means everything is positive, and the ones that add to make the ones that add to make 25 is definitely not those. That's 45, that's 27, but 18 and 7 do make 25, which means those are your two numbers. And then the very last one for the day multiplies to make 144, adds to make negative 25, and here is where you have to think. If you have seen the number the same time over and over, and you've worked to make the tree, why not use information that you had before? So what I'm going to do is just simply copy this tree, which is 1 and 144, 2 and 72, 3 and 48, 4 and 36, 6 and 24, 8 and 18, sorry I wrote that wrong, 9 and 16, 12 and 12. So again, there's no need in reinventing the wheel, especially if you've already made a tree for that number, which is why we actually want to make the tree the right way, so we can use it again if necessary. The difference here is that it adds to make a negative 25, which, if you remember, means that all the numbers should be negative. Of course, those are too big. That's negative 51, that's negative 40, that's negative 30, that's negative 26. I think 9 and 6 make 15. So the answer to my puzzle will be negative 9, negative 16. Again, it is very important that you work hard on this process today. I can't stress that enough. You know I have your best interests in mind, and I only really say things like this if I mean them. And yes, we have had some important days in a row, but I'm telling you right now that if you don't work hard to get this down, you're going to have issues. You can either make this unit easier to cope with or almost impossible to fight through, depending on your work ethic today. Yes, you can work together, but just make sure you are understanding how to do it before you start messing around. There will be moments of frustration. Of course, that's part of math, but if you fight through them, you're going to find out you're definitely skilled enough to solve the puzzles that are placed in front of you. So again, just go out and conquer these things so you don't have to worry about them. So what I want you to do now is go ahead and log into MathXL. There is no worksheet on this, and begin practicing on the homework titled Factor Intro 1. There are a lot of questions, but you are not expected to finish them. I believe it's easier to use the computer than to work them out on a worksheet, but you have to hand in your work for credit. So make sure you do your work on a sheet of blank paper, and at the end of the day, you hand in what you worked on. Now, if you give me 1 or 2 of them, I'm not going to give you a 0, but I can guarantee you're probably not going to get that far. Get as many of these things done as you can, because the process that we just learned represents the process you're going to use for 8.5, 8.6, 8.7, and 8.8. And if you don't get it down, then you're going to miss every single question that pops up for the rest of the unit. So please work hard to get it, and good luck.